What let me put y'all on a story from someone who I worked with that was very emotionally unstable. So, back when I lived in a buttfuck state that no one cares about, I was working at a warehouse membership store. Not the one known for the $1.50 hot dog, but its competitor. I worked in their meat department and then switched to the tire shop because I wanted to learn something new, get my hands on something different. Kind of wanted to ditch some of the BS of the meat department, and also because I was genuinely interested in cars. I had this supervisor there. I could tell he had a lot of bottled up emotions, mostly expressed as anger, and it was written all over how he carried himself every day. Now, I want to be clear. I have major respect for veterans and people who serve this country. What they sacrifice is real, and I'm not disrespecting that. But going through tough shit does not give anyone a free pass to treat people like garbage. That's what this is about. Now, this guy was a veteran, early 30s, and while he was deployed, his wife cheated on him, and not with just anyone, but someone who had a history of attacking children's innocence and privacy, if you know what I mean. From what I overheard him telling another coworker, she may also have been involved with the selling and using substances in their apartment or something, and that ended up getting him kicked out of his apartment. He said he had to sell all his weapons, and and the divorce itself was rough. Maybe there's like some other reasons, but yeah, he ended up being broke and desperate. And he and his wife share a kid. And he also has two other children with two other women. That makes 3 baby mamas. Also, this guy had a bad relationship with his mom. To sum it up, his mom told him that he was a failed abortion. I'm gonna leave it at that, and if I remember correctly, he never knew his dad. This was a guy who clearly never learned to process his emotions in a healthy way. He drank about 4 Monster Energy drinks a day, no water. I think I asked him in 2025, or maybe 2024, that he hadn't drank water heavily, regularly since 2017 or 2018 when he was in the military, and he drank milk sometimes at home. He openly said that no woman could make him happy, even though when he wasn't doom scrolling TikTok on his phone at work, he'd be on dating apps swiping through girls' profiles. I even asked him once, what about seeing happiness on your kids' faces? He said, they still fucking annoy me. Then I asked, what about making money? He goes, that just goes towards my bills. From pretty early on, I had a feeling this guy may or may not have it out for me for whatever reason. During my second week, I jacked up a truck incorrectly. Nothing was damaged, luckily, but my coworker told my supervisor what had happened, and my supervisor told me I was only allowed to use the tire balancer and not mount tires for the time being. The next day, the first car on my shift needed a new set of tires, so I stood by the car and didn't do anything, and then he tells me to go mount the fucking tires. So I got yelled at for not following this guy's orders. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. About a month in, it was a slow day, and we were just talking. I can tolerate jokes to an extent, but this guy may have pushed a boundary. He called me a sand hard R as a joke. He'd made edgy comments before, and we'd even share some banter. Edgy stuff, but nothing, too extreme. Typical guy banter. Guy coworker banter with, very high limits. But that one, I let slide when I probably shouldn't have. The week after that, we had just finished a car, and he told me to put the chain up on the bay. Basically a plastic chain hooked onto both sides of the bay door to keep anything from rolling in. As a joke, I told him he didn't sound like a long-time employee who had been there for 5 years. So I came off as if I shouldn't take him seriously, but I was being sarcastic, just trying to match his energy since he joked around constantly. But he took it seriously, and his ego couldn't handle it. I leaned to it a little more, trying to be more obvious about it, and I even said something like, "Bro, who do you think you are?" Again, but like clearly joking, like in a joking, like, "Bro, like, who do you think you are?" Like, really trying to sound like I'm coming off as like unserious. He knows he's my supervisor. I know he's my supervisor. That was the point of me saying that question as a joke, but he took it dead serious. We had another car come in, but it was slow enough that I could take my lunch break with the staff that we had. Before I left, I told him straight up, "Hey, sorry man, I wasn't actually trying to be like that. I was just joking around. I now know not to joke around like that. It won't happen again. And is it fine if I go on my lunch break?" He said something like, "I don't care what you do," and I went on my break. It was my time to go after all. I came back from lunch and he called me to the office. This man had written me up for joking about his authority after calling me a racial slur the week before. The same guy who regularly threw stuff at a coworker for laughs. He once even threw a tire at him, and he's even thrown like just metal tools at him. This same guy walked up to an employee. It was always the same guy who was a target of this, but he once walked into him while he was sitting in the driver's seat of a customer's car with the door open and tried to sit on him and shove him aside as if he was trying to have him sit in the same seat with him. A stranger's car, by the way. That kind of behavior was just normal to him. Just a typical Wednesday. But me making a sarcastic comment? Right up. And to top it off, he lied on the written report. It said, "He told me who the F do you think you are?" And I wasn't being profane at all during that exchange. He added that in himself. And the very next day, he did something that I still can't believe it didn't get him fired. If you don't know what a bead blaster is, sometimes called a cheetah blaster, here's a quick explanation. It's a large pressurized air tank used to help mount tires that won't seat on the rim through normal inflation. As you know, a tire is its own a tire and a rim are their own separate pieces, but you would inflate the tire onto the rim, but when they have a hard time mounting on, you would build up pressure in the tank, then release it all at once into the tire that's on the rim but loose, and that pressure would force it to expand and seat onto the rim. And smeared a glob, like a fat, like handful glob of it onto the nozzle of the bead blaster, like close to the base of it where you would screw it on. Then he walked to the bathroom door, used his pocket knife to unlock it from the outside and open it on a coworker, same one that he always messes with, who was sitting on the toilet with his pants at his ankles and his hands covering his crotch. My supervisor stood there laughing. Bead blaster pointed in. I look over, saw what was happening, and immediately yelled out loud, loud enough for anyone maybe in the parking lot to potentially hear with the bay doors open. "Hey, someone could see you do this." I wanted him to hear me and stop. He eventually released the valve, but I think he mentioned right before he did it, he mentioned that he wasn't pointing it directly at him, but it still did damage. The pressurized air shot out along with the lube, and the first thing the guy in the toilet said was, "It's in my eye." Thankfully, he didn't lose his vision, but he had red marks on his chest where his button shirt had been open, and lube was splattered across the walls and the toilet, and even a bit of the urinal next to the toilet. It was a complete mess. My supervisor cleaned up some of it, threw away some lubed paper towels, and left the rest. I reported it to a manager that same day. I wrote a detailed report with specific timestamps so they could pull the camera footage. They even saw the lube residue on the bead blaster and on the bucket I hadn't touched, like bucket of lube that I hadn't touched. I had pictures on my phone of what happened, and he got a slap on the wrist. A manager basically said, "Hey, did you do this?" He said, "Yeah." The manager said, "Don't do it again." That was it. No termination, no formal warning, nothing. Let me be direct. That is invasion of privacy and assault. You do not unlock a bathroom door on someone while they're sitting on the toilet with their pants down and blast them with a pressurized tool. At that point, it's not even a prank. Like, it's not acceptable anywhere. I want to be fucking clear. Reporting it was not retaliation for what had happened to me the day before. It was the right thing to do. A few weeks after that, I got written up again, this time for not wearing safety glasses. The same supervisor who regularly didn't wear his own safety glasses and didn't tell people that were also working with me to put them on. He didn't warn me he'd write me up for it. He just did it. Apparently, whenever I was caught and other people were caught without them, he would get texted by managers saying that we didn't have them on or we were like doing something wrong or something. And I didn't find this out until I got written up. So what I'm saying is apparently I was caught without them. The manager would text him and it would go straight to a write-up with no warning. If he had just simply told me, "Next time I catch you without them, it's a write-up," I would have complied. I always did when given clear explanations. But that's not how it worked for me in this case. That put me at 2 write-ups. It takes 4 to get fired. I could tell they were building a case. Like, I was sussing on it. On top of all of this, I was regularly left to close the department alone. Like, some people would just leave 3 hours before I did, and I'd just be there for myself for a while. And I'd take out the trash before my days off, and the bins would be piled up and nearly overflowing by the time I came back 2 days later. I'd get yelled at for not moving a pallet of new batteries when my back was already killing me from moving old ones all day. While he sat around looking at his phone. When I went on my phone, a manager would call me out. When he did it, or when anyone else in the department did, nothing. One time I came in to find a pallet of new batteries sitting right in front of the fire escape door, left there on his watch while he was on his phone between working on cars. I had already put old batteries away and my back was hurting pretty bad, but I still used a pallet jack to move it out of the way to avoid a safety violation coming back on all of us. He also threw a clip hammer across the shop once. He was already pissed off, but he did that with it when it was just me and him working without anyone else there at the time. So we threw a clip hammer across the shop. The kind of used to hammer wheel weights on the rims. If you know, you know. If you don't, that's fine. He tossed a battery and kicked it off, like, on the floor. Like, right after, like, talking to a difficult customer and told someone to swap it out without a work order just to get them out of there. I've also seen him, like, think he stabbed his pocket knife into a, like, trash bin, plastic trash bin, like, out of anger. Emotionally unstable shit. And he openly said damn near yelling. Like, he just said this kind of loud that when he would get leg tattoos. Oh, this guy was also covered in tattoos. But when he said whenever he'd get leg tattoos, they'd say some bullshit that was irrelevant, and on the other leg he would get F gay people. And as for the guy who got hit with the pressurized lube, he was still cool with my supervisor, probably because they both served in the military, just different branches. I genuinely don't understand what kept that friendship going. I asked him why he never pushed back when he'd get pranked, and he said something along the lines of, because I know I couldn't get him to stop, I'd watch my supervisor push him into a horizontal stack of tires while he was just sitting on it, and he'd just laugh it off, while my coworker would be folded like a lawn chair with his ass deep in a stack of tires. And since this was a wholesale store with food samples out on the main floor, the two of them would regularly disappear from the tire shop for a sample run without telling me. I'd find out by spotting them when I was taking out trash. That about sums up the dynamic. His one genuine strength, he knows a lot about cars from his respectable amount of experience. I'll give him that. But knowledge doesn't excuse behavior. This country may genuinely owe that man some mental health resources after what he went through. The deployment, the betrayal, the divorce, a mother who said what she said, and a father who was never there. It's a lot of trauma, and I'm not dismissing it, but I'm saying that trauma is not a license to assault coworkers, racially slur the people you supervise, or create a hostile work environment for everyone around you. He needs help, and instead of getting it, he was put in charge of people without help. I ended up transferring back to my old department. Former coworker of mine, a genuinely solid guy who had since been promoted to supervisor, let me back in. That tire shop wasn't worth losing my job over. I was operating under management that was emotionally unstable and had it out for me. And I was better off out there, even with a pay cut that I had to sacrifice. This was a bit different than what I normally do. I normally just kind of like talk about dropping shit about my life with normally some sort of lesson I wanted to stick out on to the viewer, but I just wanted to share a story. Game is a game. It's been your boy Bean Burrito. I upload regularly. Do what you want with that information. Don't work too hard. I'll try not to.